warm to pleasant where we're headed. Ahead of us in Arch Canyon, we have a hanging valley, and we'll try to skirt the cliff. By heading over in that direction. The break in the head wall shows us the commodity that we're not going to be able to live without today, water. We're happy to see that. It's a hot one. From the top of a hanging valley at 9,200 feet, we see a terminal moraine at 9,400 feet, probably put there by the glacier that existed maybe 10,000 years ago. We are in land administered by the Targhee National Forest, and we are looking west to the main crest of the Lemhi Range. Apart from that baloney of the sea serpent, the unique feature of this canyon is the impressive limestone arch at just under 10,000 feet in elevation, which you see ahead of you, chocked with snow. We're looking toward Shoshone John, and we see a most impressive vertical limestone buttress. Our route will take us up the valley to the head wall of the main crest, and we will rock scramble to the 11,212-foot summit. The arch must funnel enough water through it to create its own colluvial fan, which we're standing on. Upon entering the glacial cirque between Shoshone John and Big Boy, the last trees grow hardy in this protected area. Rock upon rock, as the Indians would say. Sometimes these snowfields don't yield any water because the limestone is so porous. So we're very fortunate to have some H2O runoff today. For those of you that are interested in mountain routes, this would be one ascent route, although I used it as a descent route from 11,404-foot Big Boy. This would be the southeast gully. Some scrambling involved. This peaceful looking snowfield, in fact, is what chews the mountain up. Claws the rock out and then transports it into piles of rubble. Now, out on the rock field, things are not nearly as devoid of life as you would think. Here was somebody's home. Looks like a bird nest of some kind. Well positioned. The rock, while predominantly limestone, is quite jointed and fractured with various other types of rock mixed in. Some of the rock is coral bearing, indicating this was once a seabed, and the rock being younger than 200 million years old. That very isolated green ridge would be good wildlife habitat. There is water nearby as we look back. The route we've been following out of Birch Creek Valley. Associated with desert country in the west is the black varnish caused by water stains on the rock. These guys like cold feet. And on our way up, we alternate between hot and cold. Streams in the desert speak to a higher being. He can see me, I can see him, but can you see him? Little does that goat know that's exactly where I'm headed. Our scramble takes us up the north face of Shoshone John. I don't know if you can get a feel for the angle. It would be class 2, very easy class 3 climbing. And then when we get up to the summit, we'll probably have some class 3 going along the goat ridge up there. The rock is dolomite at this point. And our route of ascent. The clouds are starting to play games on the face of Big Boy. That goat may have never seen a human. The Lemhi crest is a knife edge. Just a few more feet to our summit. That goat was definitely standing on the summit. Let's go see if we can spot him. The goat managed to disappear. Those are awesome animals in and among rock. Our Dolomite summit of Shoshone John, I don't believe has been previously climbed. There's no indication that a previous climber has been here. The south ridge is a really high angle. The east ridge looks gentle at this point, but there is a steep arête at the end of that spur, preventing climbing from that route. But the southern slopes of Shoshone John would be climbable, although it would be extremely tedious up that huge scree field out of the South Fork of Pass Creek. Looking into Arch Canyon, we had some dang tedious scree also right in there, but fortunately not a whole lot of it. I'll take you on a tour around the block. Our next peak to the north, as we mentioned, and it's in a shadow now, is Big Boy. Next, north of it would be the Riddler with its imposing southeast face. The best way to climb the Riddler is up that snow tongue after it melts, so very late season. Diamond Peak, showing the Facet route. Continuing north, Amy's Peak, Lexi's Peak. The baseball peaks are immediately behind Lexi's Peak. And Bell Mountain. Looking to the south along the crest of the Lemhi, that peak just under 11,000 feet we'll call Black and White Peak. Any of these peaks could be called black and white because of the blackish dolomite and the white snow, but it's appropriate to name one at least for that characteristic. Little Diamond Peak anchors the high section of the Lemhis, offset from the main crest. Sunny Bar Peak, Joker Peak, Nicholson Peak, which is 11,051 feet high. In the background, is the Lost River Range with the South Twin and the North Twin. The Pass Creek area and some other wonderful 11 and 12,000 foot peaks. And it will be our challenge to see if there are other unclimbed 11,000 foot peaks in that entire section from Mount McCaleb to the Cimarroy Range north of Bora Peak, which is right there. The Lemhi's drop considerably in elevation at the Uncle Ike Pass Creek area, and then the four 10,000 foot peaks rise out of that. We'll call those the Lemhi quadricephalus, the four heads, and they include Marshall's Mount, Dome Peak, Whitebird Peak, Buckhorn Peak. Continuing further south, Shrill, Tyler, Hoops, Great Western, and the end point of the Lemhi Range is Saddle Mountain. The cairn was built at the high point. Let's now leave a register. Shoshone John, elevation 11,212 feet, 7th highest summit in the Lemhi Range, named for the Tukuarika, which is sheep-eater Indian, who inhabited Skull Canyon immediately east of this summit, which is directly across the way, around 1900. A large man at 300 pounds, he was accompanied by his tiny squaw. Fitting that this prominent fault block mountain be named for a local Native American. The source is Pearl Oberg. True Independence on the 4th of July, 1991. Peak number 237, Rick Bogger, Idaho Falls, Idaho. Kiri Eleison. Lord have mercy. I don't know what it is. This peak has a certain reverence about it. Please pardon my dreaminess. About 70 air miles southeast of us, as we're looking, is Idaho Falls, Idaho. Now, scanning a little more south would be the Portneuf Range in there. And one of the things I'm thinking about today are the thousands of immigrants that came across the Oregon Trail in the 1840s and 50s. And many of them would take particular note of this day, July 4th. Now, I could imagine that the vanguard in any given year would have reached the Fort Hall, Pocatello area by July 4th. So we have something in common with our pioneers today. I assure you that this quartz arrow embedded in dolomite rock is not man-made. How interesting to have an arrow, a natural arrow, on the summit of the mountain that we're naming for a Native American. The folded rock band speaks of a violent geologic past. While that folded rock looks rhythmical, just imagine the violence that must have spit that up. We started things out today from Pass Creek and Birch Creek Valley. The truck is parked down where the North Fork meets the South Fork at the corral. How good is your eyesight? Oh, that hits the spot. Oh, it feels good to cool the tootsies off. Ah, sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Put that fire out. On the weather forecast, there was absolutely no chance of rain today. The Lemhis do create their own weather, however. You've got the right... Watch out, kiddies. Here's what you turn into when you climb too many mountains. And even worse, if you start trying to predict the weather in Idaho's mountains, you might turn into one of these. Hey, you've been a real good sport for putting up with me today. Thanks for coming along. From the Lemhi Range, this is Rick Bogger